tell the camera what you're doing?
So we've just done the exercise about the negative side effects of kind. And do you want me to read the positive side effects of kind? So being kind to people can offer validation, give them comfort and safety, show them that they matter, make them feel supported and have self-worth, that they're grounded and can regain strength. It helps build empathy and teaches somebody how to show kindness to others. It can calm the person, also the environment. It can build cohesion in a group, and it could build openness, trust, and honesty in the group.
I have a question. Would a negative of kind potentially be like a fear of facing challenges?
What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I'm sure we could add to all these lists, absolutely.
I was just wondering if that would be kind or nice.
Well, when it's a fear,
Like it really stresses you out and you just don't want to face challenges.
so to me that's a negative. The fact is a fear.
Okay, how about the negative sides of firmness?
Sarah, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Teachers are not as compassionate or the adult. The child doesn't feel valued or heard. Children feel uncomfortable coming to you about certain things. Children are defiant or resistant. And children view this model as a type of bullying.
I wonder about putting fear on that list too.
Fear
As
of
the adult.
challenges.
Well,
Fear of the
and I
adult.
think that's where we
Fear
were
of
going
taking-
with the uncomfortable going to that adult was the fear of them, because they were
Fear.
afraid that, you know, if they're already so firm, there's no budging on whatever their needs might be.
Fear of getting caught. So, okay, let's go with fear of getting caught or fear of making a mistake. Now what behavior shows up? Sneaky,
Like stealing.
dishonesty, yeah.
Lack of moral compass.
Yeah, okay. So do you see how like this fear, this feeling leads to behavior?
Right.
Okay. Really it's the feeling leads to perceptions. Perceptions lead to decisions, which lead to beliefs. Back to our beliefs, yeah. Okay, how about the positive side of firm?
Children feel grounded. You feel grounded. Children can rely upon you as an adult. There's a defined boundary which prevents conflict, which can prevent conflict. The classroom where children remain quiet and focus on their work. Children are compliant, and many kids like rules. Well, not many, some.
I did. I was a very complacent kid. And I tell a story to my students about it wasn't my first year teaching, but it was my first year teaching in Boise in the school district. And I was that kid that always followed the rule. I was the dream kid, right, in the class. Teachers loved me because I did good work and I always obeyed the rules and I always, you know, did everything right. Okay? Got the A's, all that. So here I am, I'm that kind of teacher. I follow the rules, I do what I'm told, I'm accustomed to doing my role as an employee in a boss relationship. So here I am, I'm first year in this district, I'm on a probationary contract, because that's how it works in Boise. And we have a fire ring, a thing go off of whatever. So we all evacuate. It wasn't a drill, we didn't know about it, but we all evacuate. And we get out there, and our administrator calls us all together and says, okay, we actually have had a bomb threat.
Oh.
That's why we're out. And Don Coberly, the superintendent, has now already arrived, like rushed over. And we were told, go back in your classroom and look at your room and see if anything looks out of place or unusual. Okay, so I'm telling my husband this. Okay, here's what scared the you-know-what out of me. As I'm just telling him matter of fact. He goes, and you did that? I was like, well, yeah. Wait a minute. You looked in your room for a bomb. And you guys, it hit me like a ton of bricks, because number one, you know what was more disturbing to me that I went in, was it hadn't even crossed my mind yet that I wasn't supposed to. Like, I never even thought through, that is not my job and I'm putting my life in danger. And I had been so accustomed to doing what I was told, that it just hit me like, oh my gosh, is this what I've done to my students? Is this what I've created? And guess what? I taught one more year in the school district and said, I can't teach in this system anymore. Like, that was such an epiphany for me that it completely changed my world. I quit after one more year, and I took a year to reflect on what I really thought of myself as, you know, that as a teacher, and opened a Montessori school. But I tell kids that, you know, compliance, I mean, I share that story with parents, really more than with kids, but compliance, it's like, be careful what you wish for. And Montessori teachers we tease among ourselves, like, sometimes I wish they would just do it, you know, because I said so, you know, and you go, but be careful what you wish for. So as a parent, like, do we have to dialogue about everything? Can I just throw the because I said so every now and then, you know?
Were there any teachers that didn't go on?
No, we all did. Good question. We all went in. So, okay, so here we go. Let's think about this. When I hear about the, oops, I've got these.
Can I add one more that we
Yeah.
talked about that we didn't say on the negatives of firm? Is that the students don't think for themselves.
I thought you added
We
that.
talked about it.
We
I don't
talked
think
about
you
it,
wrote
yes,
down.
okay. Yeah, and that goes right along with what I was saying.
Right.
It's like compliance can be seen as a good thing, and that's a good long term. Unless you're gonna maybe have a military career, or a flight aviator, or, you know, I mean, like the flight controllers. I mean, there's a time and place for that, and that's why it's really nice to look at, hey, there's two sides to this.
I was gonna say, but even like places like the military now are starting to take a step back from that.
Really?
Yeah, and because, I mean, maybe it's because you're not training soldiers to go and point a gun at somebody and shoot them. I mean, you're dealing with lots of different kinds of warfare and having to empower people to make decisions and things.
That's interesting.
So,
So why don't you, let's all be emotionally honest with ourselves for a minute. Stand up and go stand on the side, kindness, firmness, that probably you tend towards. Let's see what kind of staff we are.
Wait,
Middle. That's what I want to do, but I'm just gonna stand here because this is like the one gift that I actually know that I have, so.
You're the only person on the
firm side. No, I'm pretty firm, but I feel like I'm firm, but I go about it in a very kind way.
Okay, let me rephrase it. Under pressure. Do you dip one way or another? Under pressure, under stress?
Are you talking as a teacher or as a coworker? Like
As a either, under any kind of stress.
I just feel like I'm.
Great, it's fine. So embrace your challenge, embrace your gift.
My gift.
Are you from?
I would say when it comes to stress, I am still firm.
Awesome. Okay.
I think when I'm stressed, I go back to like a good middle. When I'm stressed,
So you know what's common is that people, because of our own belief system, if we if we have a fear of this, guess where we jump? Yes, yes. Or it's like this is very common with parents, with our kids, but it translates to students. We're so firm, you know, we're over here on this firm side. We're maybe over here, we're so firm that we sort of can't stand ourselves. And then we jump over, and then we overcompensate because we feel bad, and then we're so kind that we can't stand the kids.
So whenever you say like, you jump from negative, I'm thinking like if I was here this, you're thinking I'm thinking the positives of time. But you mean like overly kind? Is it overly kind?
it represents a continuum of only kindness. Okay, which
Have the negatives of being kind as well.
Right.
yeah. So we flip-flop often because we feel bad. And then I gotta firm up, we compensate. Or as parents, now who's a parent? Parent, you single parent? Yep. Okay, because I didn't see a ring on your fingers. So single parents do this too. You just do it as one body, whereas parents often do this as a team.
Oh.
One is kind, one's a little more firm, and then the firm person's a little bothered by all this kindness, and the kind person's a little bothered by all this strictness, that you start becoming more of that thing. And then you actually grow apart, not only as parents, when the kids are on this teeter-totter, but as a couple. It sure does.
Personal experience.
So, I'm going to say something a bit inappropriate, but as women, we tend to micromanage our spouses a lot, and in doing so, there's a divide that happens. And my husband teaches these parenting classes with me, and he teaches classes to men only. And when he has those men alone, he'll say, go get your balls out of your wife's purse. Like, it's time to...
My husband always says.
Are your husband's balls in your purse?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And he says it too. He's like,
Yeah.
can you give me my balls in your purse?
So, yeah, the question is,
Kim,
who
where are
put them
you?
there? Did he put them there, or did you put them there? And you don't have to answer. So, but that is so funny I want to pay you to come to our class.
I want to meet your
I think it's
husband.
awesome you can admit that.
I love that that's on video.
Yeah, I know, that's so funny.
And YouTube soon.
No, right, no.
Kim's hidden behind.
No.
Kim Kelly's hidden behind.
The teeter-totter is very real. And now think about what a child takes away from a teeter-totter.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're in a pinball machine, you know what I mean? Just where's my button today? And it's difficult because I pushed that button yesterday, and then I pushed it today, and it's not fine,
Yeah.
right? It's inconsistent, and that's where then you get a little more chaos in the classroom, and then suddenly you're cracking the whip. I'm not pointing to you, just like you know, whatever, you were cracking the whip a little too much. So it is so wonderful to be in this place of balance. Because when we're off balance, look what we get. Not that we don't want these as opportunities, but we're going to get stuck there without the bridge to move over here.
Do you think our perception, though, of where we are is accurate? You know, because I look at people in general, and I can't help but think people, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they have a perception of how they are. But you may have a completely different perception of how they are.
And guess what? The only perception that matters is the perception of the child.
Right, but isn't it really the perception of ourselves that can matter if we're not honest with ourselves?
Or if we want to change.
The realities we're all living in separate realities. So our perception of ourselves versus how
I like
it,
that.
and probably most likely, we perceive ourselves as less of a degree than we think, or we'll go the opposite. We're hard on ourselves, and we often perceive ourselves as more of a degree. And so it took me a while to really see that, you know what, I actually am kind. And I thought I was being diplomatic. But when I really looked at myself and took into account what my husband was saying, I do see a different perception. Now, interesting about the child's perception is that there's some research done with Jay Nelson, and I have a book for you to read. You'd really like this book because it's more of an analytical side to positive discipline. Maybe you've read it. Stephen Glenn, Raising Self-Reliant Children in a Self-Indulgent World. Fabulous book written in the 80s.
Wow.
Hello.
He missed it. He could make lots of money right now if he like re-released.
But he raised 21 foster kids along with his own kids.
gosh.
Yeah. So he went in to, okay,
Who was the author?
Stephen Glenn, Raising Self-Reliant Children in a Self-Indulgent World. And he's part of the positive discipline. He's not alive anymore, but his book and his work is still part of the positive discipline series of books. So if you go to Positive Discipline Association and look up their books, he'll show up there. But what's really interesting is that he went to jails and troubled places where people show up in trouble. And he said, okay, what's your perception of your parents? Or in our case, it'd be adults, teachers, parents, whatever, adults, that are significant in your life, that have an influence of you in your life. And he had them rate permissive, strict, democratic, whatever, neglectful, okay. Then he said, oh, okay, and he wrote that down. Do you do drugs? And he asked them, and their answer was, okay, yes or no. Okay, what drug do you do? What's so fascinating is that there was parallels between whether or not they did drugs and their drug of choice. For example, if they perceived their parents as being very strict, most of them did cocaine. Permissiveness, they were pot smokers and probably smoking with their parents.
I could've nailed that one.
Neglect was heroin. Yeah,
Really?
yes, it's fascinating.
Why? What does cocaine and heroin do to, what's the effect?
Well, heroin is utter escape, right? And if you think about, like, to a really strict parent, what would be like the utmost rebellion? Having a beer or snorting the cocaine? Like, it's like an exaggerated form of rebellion. Isn't that interesting? And the kids that perceive their parents as a pretty nice balance were non-users. And not across the board, but I mean, statistically, yeah.
And this is their perception, not necessarily how.
It was their perception. That's the key point. We have to always take into account this, because this drives the behavior.
Gosh, how do you deal with that?
Right.
What if you are being what if you're being authoritative and the kid thinks you're not, like you're being authoritarian or permissive? Like, how do you,
Then you work on the belief. You try a new strategy.
so maybe you will be permissive and not think you're authoritarian?
No, you just start rephrasing things, or you explore and you say, am I really authoritarian or not? Maybe I think I am, but maybe I'm not. You examine, you change your own behavior, and you work with curiosity questions, and you explore. Maybe what is intended in our mind is not what's actually coming out with our words and our body language.
So if we asked our kids now, like, what kind of parent we are, we predict.
Can
we, like, if they're gonna be users?
Which drug do you want? You can have a drug right now, which drug do you want?
I'd ask you that, like, I could.
Why don't you try that? Hey, Gavin, what do you think?
But what's interesting to me is how, you talk about a belief system, and the truth of the matter is, every child thinks so different than the other from how you,
That's right,
you know what I mean? Like,
that's right,
Really?
that's right.
really.
That's
So,
interesting.
here, and remember, kids only collect, this is a really important piece of this. Once this belief is made, they only really collect data that supports that belief. So if mom is really a pushover at home, what does that child come to school believing about you as a female teacher?
That you're a pushover as
Yeah.
well, because if it works somewhere, then they're gonna keep doing the same behaviors
That's
and
right.
patterns because it's still working.
That's right. And so what you can see is exaggerated behavior for a while until they reframe their belief system about, okay, maybe it's not all females. Here's the challenge though, is the behavior sometimes is exaggerated because nobody likes to have their belief system shaken. And so we get a bit tenacious initially, and they don't trust you. Are you for real? Or if they're coming and last year's teacher was really harsh, you're gonna have some obstacles to overcome initially, right? Or last year's teacher, here's another one that comes, kids that are spanked. Often kids that are spanked It's like the last resort. They're push, they push, they push, they push, that's it. Boom, right? So what is that kid coming to school doing? Push, push, it's like they're waiting for the gauntlet to come down. So those kids, though we're not gonna spank them, those are those kids that push, and finally you're like, not negotiable, and then they back off, right? So we have to be really careful because I just invited them that I have a tipping point, or I just showed them I do have a tipping point. I'm not gonna spank you, but the gauntlet's gonna come down in my way that I do that. So I just trained them, just push, I'll be, the kid's thinking I can just push until the gauntlet comes down and then I'll back off. So what would be a better strategy for us? Instead of the gauntlet coming down as teachers.
You get firm sooner?
Yes.
Oh.
I can see this is important to you. You've asked me 3 times. The answer is no.
Please don't ask me that.
And if they do?
I wouldn't respond. Or smile. They ask.
I would not want that smile.
But look what that smile says. I'm not belittling you. I'm not berating you. I'm not lecturing. I love you, and the answer's no.
It says, you already know the answer to this
I'm
question,
reminding you what the
and
answer
why are you still talking about this?
So a question I have, hearing that you tend to think of yourself as a softie, did this take work for you?
You know, it did as a parent. I'm not a softie as a teacher. It's really interesting. But look at my reality at home. I had this really strict, minorly abusive mom. I'm so afraid to be that mom. And when I flip my lid, I can feel myself. It would be so easy for me to lash out. It's like in my DNA. So I'm so afraid of being that person. So as a mom, I in my hard moments, that creeps out and I want to be soft. But as a teacher, I didn't have any bad experiences with teachers, so I don't have that fear when I'm teaching. What made you ask that question? Like, what's your mind? Where are you going with that?
I think I'm completely opposite of you.
Yeah.
I had a mom that was too soft,
Uh-huh.
and therefore I find myself harsh at times with my kids. And when you bring up emotion that you have when you talk about your own mom, and you can see it's emotional for you, I can't help but go, okay, so when I cross that line and smack my kid on the butt, have I crossed what to you is abusive, and to me is, I don't know, like, my mom was so soft that I remember watching her as a child and thinking, I will never let my husband or my kids treat me the way you do.
Right.
I said that wrong. I will never let them treat, I think
You as a mom that way, the way
Yeah.
you were treating her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it always comes back to, because, parents seek us, they ask interesting questions, and all that. And so I would refer or phrase back to you, it doesn't matter what I think about it, it's just what is your child's belief system about it? Or do you feel like it's effective? Is it working? That's 3 words. Is it working? And is it drawing out the qualities and the gifts that we're after? And then you can draw your own conclusion. And I do know that a family pretty rooted can weather a lot of storms. And our lose-it moments are just averaged in amongst a lot of really, really great moments. But compare that to a child who's dealing with a lot of lose-it moments, one after another, So let's think about it this way too. So I made a little graph of high kind, low kind, high firm, low firm, okay? Now, what kind of parent, let's go over here for a minute, what kind of parent are we gonna see with high kind, low firm?
reactionary, they're never gonna trust them, it's always gonna be, like they're bipolar to them, mistrust.
Okay? So I heard the word permissive a few times. That's also often the term we put there. And as a result, you get kids that might have that sense of mistrust or lack of dependability in the adult. So let's think about this. If you're a kid, then how do you view mistakes? Mistakes are,
Okay.
Whatever, no big deal.
okay? I feel loved when
My mom buys me things.
I get things, I'm getting my way. Okay? All right. Do you guys kind of see where I'm going with that? Like how they're starting to create their belief system. Mistakes, sir?
So this is a parent that's kind and not strict.
This is a parent that
Kind and not firm. Yes.
is, until their breaking point, right? And they're the complete
If there is one. Yeah.
Until they're the complete opposite.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so let's now go to a parent who's really firm and not very kind. What would we call that parent?
Neglectful.
Authoritative.
Yeah, authoritative. Maybe for
Authoritarian.
simplicity, we'll say really strict.
Right.
Okay, kind of the opposite. Okay. All right. How does that, okay, what behaviors do we see coming out here?
Kids who either are defiant or
Rebel.
compliant.
Rebellion, exactly, sneakiness,
Seeking approval.
seeking approval,
From friends.
pleasers. Yeah, it's not always like horrible behavior. You're like, okay, well, you know, they're compliant or they're pleasers, you know, but they taken to a degree that's maybe not functional.
Not
real-
necessarily good.
Yeah, so here we go. Mistakes are
Like huge.
End of the world.
End
bad.
of the world.
Yes, end of the world. I am
Stress-
loved when
Stress-inducing.
I do
When I
things
do what
right.
I'm told.
Yeah.
I do it right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's go here. Not very firm, but not very kind either.
I'm unloved.
Neglectful.
Yeah, that would be that neglect. Let's see. Yeah, I guess we should keep them all adjectives. I can't stand when things are not the same. We jump from nouns to adjective, or now adjectives to nouns. Okay, so what kind of behaviors do we see here?
I feel like those are the kids that are looking for any attention.
Okay,
Low self-esteem.
Like self-esteem.
maybe withdrawn or,
Comfort in groups that are.
okay, so here we go. Mistakes are,
Not noticed.
okay, I am loved when,
I get any kind of attention.
okay. Now, we tend to go neglect to like a really deep, dark place, like a parent, as I alluded to before, a parent that, you know, literally neglects in like an unlawful way, gonna get arrested kind of neglect. But guys, we're seeing more and more of this.
Really?
Yes.
It's kind of that disadvantaged rich. Is that what you're talking about? Like send them with the nanny and yeah.
Busy being busy. I'm busy making money. I'm busy doing.
Starting
me.
the school.
So this is where Jen and I are.
Yeah, we're in the neglectful.
Solid families can weather lots of storms. But I bet in your, I doubt it. There's a difference between neglecting your normal day-to-day versus being strict and mean. I mean, or, you know what I
And you
mean, like
love your
being.
kids, like,
I do.
hands down, no matter how busy you are.
You guys seem to,
You love your kids, and it clearly shows.
I've walked in your path.
I was debating that at 4 a.m. though, when Liam was
Throwing up.
screaming and throwing up.
If you loved him or not.
If I loved him or not.
Was he swearing?
Oh, I just had a really bad headache.
I just want to take a minute and just feel the emotion in this room. And it's all rooted in a whole lot of love. For not only our own kids, but for children in general. And there is a difference between being busy because of the needs of the situation and being busy just being busy. And when we are busy because of the needs of the situation and we're rising to those needs, our resiliency window's small. I'm talking about the parents that are busy because they think they're busy. Oh my gosh, I have so much to do today. And they think all they do is talk about all the things they have to do. It's just shut up and start doing, right? I mean, you guys are we're in an LDS community, overtaxed moms with lots of kids. That's legitimate busyness. And you guys are doing a damn good job of it, right? And then there's this, I'm just busy being me. I'm busy on my cell phone. I'm busy on Facebook. You know, it's one thing to have that as a minor escape. It's another thing to rely on escape tools. I'm not happy in my marriage and I'm withdrawing. You know, those kinds of things.
And I mean, I think teachers can also, I mean, if you, so at first when you talked about, like, there's so much going on there's only so many hours in a day, like, if we were to just go by the strict definition, teachers would be neglectful. But it's not about, like, that's not how it actually is, so, well, I mean, you can be, but.
Do you remember what, yesterday when we talked about Adler, and he said this whole theory is on goal, behavior being purposeful, and what's the goal? 2 words, belonging and significance. That's the goal for every single one of these kids and every single one of us. So if your kid comes through the door and their goal for the day is belonging and significance, and your goal for the day is to get through geography lesson, spelling with 3rd graders, 4th grade geometry, 3rd grade geometry, and 1st grade cursive. We might have some goal misalignment. Now, when the kid is going through belonging and significance, or their goal is coming through this door as belonging and significance, and they have had a rough morning, they're a little needier, and you have a busy morning, and you're a little less observant. That's when we can go here without realizing it. We start directing the kids. Come on, Sarah, just get your work out, let's go. I mean, we might be nice about it, but you know, think of this as sort of a continuum, so we're probably not way down here, but we might be, you know, somewhere in here, you know, and it's like we're task-oriented as teachers, and we're not taking in that we have a goal misalignment right now.
And sometimes the goal for the student isn't even that it's like a huge goal. It's something that they need to just maybe center their brain before they can even do anything, because their outside life is so crazy.
So
It's wild.
I want to add on here then this idea of self-regulation. Being able to ask for what they need. And you being inviting. You know what? Guys, I know you're coming in, you're hungry, you didn't get breakfast because your carpool came. You forgot your lunch, you didn't get good sleep, you had a bad dream. Mom was a little uptight this morning, Dad left for a business trip, little sister threw up in the car. There's so many things that sort of set our day off, and I would like to invite you, as people I really care about, just let me know. Because I have a job to do, and I can get really wrapped up because there's a lot of you and a lot of things that I'm preparing to make your school really rich experience. But when you come through that door, just come over and let me know how you're doing today. I invite emotional honesty here. You can come over at any point and say, I'm having a rough go. I'm going to need a little extra slack today, you know. So that's real. And so if we go here and we think of this as maybe a little bit more of a democratic, authoritative, however you want to say that, but this is the place that we will find our list coming out. And at this place, I actually want us to get rid of the word kindness. And I want you to instead think of this as connection. Because I like that sits with me, that resonates, like, it's about connecting as humans. And when I connect with you, we can be honest, we can let our guard down, and that becomes kind of my goal, is to connect with you, not to help you like me, or to make life easy, or, to make school fun.
So that's an interesting comment you just said, not to make people like you. So when people naturally connect with you, they just happen to like you. I mean,
One would hope you could draw your own conclusion about that, right?
right, but I've just never thought of it that way. It's pretty profound.
You want to share more about that?
I mean, it's like, I think that's a strength, is like, my husband will tell me people just kind of want to be with you. And I tell him, a lot of times I'm like, I don't even like them, or whatever. I mean, I sound so shallow, I know.
No, I get what you mean though.
But I connect with them. Because I love, I mean, we all are. We all have quirky things, so we love the quirky, I don't know.
Yeah.
So think about it, and these are people you maybe aren't, it's not a reciprocal feeling of like, oh, I really want to be this person's friend. I mean, I know you're saying that lighthearted, I don't really like you, I don't even know you, I don't like you, we don't have a lot in common. But
Or I
think
have
about-
people I really like that no one else likes.
Great, but here's the thing, is when we sort of look at it as connection, look how firm we can be. We can be pretty firm when the goal is connection.
Yeah.
There's trust, there's empathy, and so this connect before correct becomes a really great tool in the classroom. So should we add that? Where do you want me to add it? Under lingo? Okay, I think it's both, so we'll just put it here. Connect before correct. We say that with that connection piece shows up with often a statement of empathy, shows up with a hug, shows up with our body language, yeah.
Trying to understand the student or somebody else.
We figuratively step into their shoes for a minute. That's what that means.
It's really powerful
What
connection.
is connection?
I had a student last year that she was at this school for 2 years and nobody could get through to her, as far as anything she came to school, didn't do any work, didn't do anything, had a hard time with kids. And I came and I was like, well, you guys have to take a step back and realize where she's coming from, and how do we foster that into some positive behavior and just really get down and try to understand. Once they saw that I was just really trying to understand her and she realized that, then the firmness was really easy. Yeah, she didn't like it, but she knew that we had a connection. And so anything that I would say or, ask of her, she knew she could ask of me just as much. It was a lot easier, and a lot of the other teachers started to open up a little bit more towards her and try the same thing. And the rest of the year ended up being amazing. This was something they were working on.
So be that child and answer this question. Mistakes are when you're in this place right here. Mistakes are,
Awesome.
yeah, they're okay.
If you get to, it depends on the person. So
Yeah, but when
so
you reach that connection.
Oh, yeah, so
Yeah.
then, yeah, absolutely.
Mistakes
They're
are okay.
And you can learn from them.
And I feel loved when,
I feel understood. When I feel understood.
When I
or
feel
when people
understood.
listen, or when I can open up, I don't know.
All the time?
Just always, it seems like, because I feel like if you have a connection with somebody, it shouldn't matter what you do, whether it's right or wrong, you know that they already love you because you're connected.
feel love when I can count on you. I feel loved when I kind of know where my place is. I feel loved when kids like boundaries.
Yeah.
They do like boundaries. They like choices within boundaries. There's comfort in that. put a kid, most kids, on the top of the Empire State Building on a windy day with no railings, and where do you stand?
Wait, Gary on the ground.
You're at the top. Let's go to Chicago, the Windy City, the Sears Tower. It's a nice flat top. And you're at the top and you're a kid and it's windy. And there's no guardrail. Where do you stand on the top of that building? Where? In the middle.
In the middle for comfort and safety, because you're scared.
And when there's a guard railing, where do you stop?
The rail.
Wow! Exactly. Do we want our kids taking risks?
Yes.
We do.
Yes.
Do we? We want them taking risks
Keep
in
them
a
away,
safe,
that's fine.
in a safe manner. I mean, as long as it's safe, we want them to take
Push it.
risks.
We're
I
innovation.
would be on the outside hanging on the
Ignition.
rope.